So aside from vampires, monsters, and mummies, Hammer Horror has also decided to tackle some killer mud. So X the Unknown was released in 1956 from Hammer Horror, not necessarily from a separate line by them, but definitely something that they wanted to try a little bit differently from Draculas and vampires and mummies that they were known for. And basically it deals with radioactive dirt. It's friggin' awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's purely like 50s monster movies inspired, like the American monster movies from the 50s. They tried to do it in the British horror tradition that Hammer is famous for, and I would say they definitely succeeded. It's packed with the tropes. It's got perfect acting. It's well, for the time anyway. It's a lot of fun. The effects are great. The story's good. I found it's really reminiscent of The Blob, which I find funny actually because The Blob was released afterwards in 1958. But I find a lot of similarities, so I can't see The Blob not taking inspiration from X the Unknown. X the Unknown is actually, it became, it's kind of similar to another series from Hammer called Quatermass that spawned like 3 sequels. And it's definitely got a similar story to that. And that's what I mean by the separate kind of tied to Hammer but not quite famous Hammer movies that were going on at the time. So basically we start off with the military testing out some radioactive activity for testing and stuff like that in practice. And it ends up something happening that is actually real and serious, and there ends up being a massive crack formed in the ground for miles and who knows how deep. Nobody even can tell. So you got this giant crack that formed, and massive radiation and radioactivity is spewing out of it, and the atmosphere basically gets ridiculously dangerous. And as time goes on, people start to encounter weird things, especially around the surrounding area. These 2 kids are playing in a forest, and then one of them gets severely burnt by something, and some of the town folks start seeing, this weird mutation of blob, and basically it's a giant blob of mud that's severely radioactive, and basically swallowing anything in its path, almost as if it has a mind of its own and an intelligence of its own. And one of these specialists actually ends up having a theory on how this radioactive energy could have formed in the ground due to like the Earth's crust and formation, and like pressuring the energy down to form like dense, what would you call it, substances of massively compressed radioactive activity. And some of it happened to come up to the Earth through this giant ass crack, and started to wreak havoc. So they're basically trying to figure out a way to kill it throughout the movie, because how do you kill mud, they ask. And they start experimenting with like atomic like nuclear radiation and atomic technology like that. So they try to go about it that way, and stuff ensues, and it's a lot of fun. It's got all its 50s tropes, like I mentioned already. You've got, the classic over-the-top screams with the ladies going, ah, ah. It's so great. So much fun. Oh, there's so many great scenes in here, and so much good special effects, which I'm always impressed with special effects in older films, because I really wonder how they did it with no digital technology. It's really interesting when you see wires falling down and sparks coming out of them, and how they would do that with just pure film, and where they got the technology to make these special effects with the mud. I'm sure they used miniatures and stuff like that with the cars, like miniature cars and miniature balls of clay or mud, and just I don't know how they would roll them around, but it interests me and it intrigues me, and it's something that I always think about when watching these. It's filmed in glorious black and white, which I wouldn't want to watch it any other way. I mean, it kills, but cannot be killed. It rises from 2,000 miles beneath the earth to melt everything in its path. Do, do, do. X the unknown. How can you not love something as cheesy as this? I mean, come on. Yeah, it's fun all throughout. The actors are fantastic. Did I mention that already? All the talent is good. All the talent is always good in Hammer horror, and this would be the second one that I've remember seeing. I've never dove into Hammer horror movies until I decided to make this series of reviews. So I'm definitely going to have a lot of fun reviewing them, and yeah, this is a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend this one, and I cannot wait to keep the series going. So that's going to be all for today, and till next time, cheers.